Well, welcome everybody to episode 2 of Bathica Banter. And our guest today is a good buddy of mine. So thrilled to have him with us. And that is the HVAC technical support specialist for one of the largest HVAC distributors in the US, Hajoka Corporation. And I am happy to welcome my buddy, TJ Johannes, to Bathica Banter. Hey, TJ, say hello to everybody.
Good morning, Jerry. Good morning, Internet land. How's everybody doing? Good
Well,
to
great
see
to
you.
have you. Great to have you, TJ. Happy New Year to you, sir.
Same to you, my friend.
TJ, I like to start every interview, quite frankly, the same way. And I like to start at the start. And what I mean by that is, I would love for you to share with our audience what got you to this point in your HVAC journey. If you would be kind enough to kind of share your journey with us, if you would.
Sure, love to, Jerry. I mean, I guess it starts when I was young. My dad was a plumber by trade.
Ah,
So I would help work with him putting some boilers in. I grew up in the Northeast, so the cold weather, so that was what we did. And then I started my first job in the business was working a counter at a supply house.
yeah.
One thing led to another. I relocated south to Baltimore area and worked for a major HVAC distributor for over 20 years in many roles. Opportunity here. Hajoka was launching a private label line of HVAC product, and they needed somebody to be a technical support for that product. So once again, I continued relocating south to Florida and love it here. I love this job. I've had the opportunity to work with some great people, kind of launching a product from the ground up, starting a training program from the ground up, and it was the best move I ever made.
Oh, fantastic. Yeah, I think Hajoka is a great home. Is it not, TJ? Just great people, great organization.
Absolutely. I couldn't be happier with the teammates that I have here, my bosses, my supervisors, whatever you want to call them. I hate saying boss. That's pretty impersonal.
Right.
Because we have a much better relationship than that. But we just have such a great team. I couldn't be more happy.
Oh, very cool. Hey, TJ, talking about private label, let's go there. So Mainline is your product there at Hajoka. It's my understanding it is unique to the Hajoka and Hajoka subsidiaries. Please share with us what is unique about the Mainline product. What makes it different than everything else that's out there, if you will?
Well, we know that there's several other private label brands out there in the market. I mean, we all know that. We try to differentiate ourselves, from everybody else by only partnering with manufacturers that we feel deem that are leaders in the industry, such as Rheem on our unitary side and such as Bathica on our ductless side.
Nice.
We offer high quality, reliable products, industry leading warranties up to 10 years, 3-year unit replacement with our mini split product from Bathica, which you're of course well aware of.
Right.
And that warranty right there really gives our contractors a peace of mind. We really want to bring a great warranty, great product, great support, great pricing, the whole package to the market.
Very cool. Yeah. And it does just the whole private label concept, TJ. I'm sure you'll agree. It sets you apart from the rest of the crowd, does it not? It just makes you a little bit different. And gives you, in many cases, an opportunity to speak about product that otherwise maybe you wouldn't have had that opportunity.
Right. And it gives a lot of our branches, or what we call profit centers, access to a line of equipment, a line of any HVAC equipment that they typically may not have.
No question.
They already have the customer base is already there.
Yeah, no question. And I love the term profit center. It's just so brilliant. It's so much better than branch or location, and because that's what it is. It's a profit center. No question about it. Yeah.
That's right.
TJ, in leading up to this interview, I always do a little research on the company, on you yourself. And it made me go back to the HVAC Mainline website and just kind of look in a little bit more detail than I usually would about what's there. And what I'm curious about is there is a section that is titled Contractor Login. And First of all, I'm blown away with what resources are available at HVAC Mainline, but I'm curious as to what can be contained in the contractor login. Obviously, that is a secured area just for customers. Please share with us what resources a contractor could expect to find in there.
Absolutely. And thanks for looking and checking it out, and appreciate the feedback. I can't take all the credit. I'm not an internet wizard. Again, I've got teammates that make it look the way it is. I may just be responsible for some of the content.
Sure.
But we want to have a place where contractors, can go and not only grow their sales, but to grow their technical knowledge, right? So we have some marketing programs available, things like van wraps, apparel, marketing fund support, all kinds of stuff. And then we have technical videos, short videos on how to troubleshoot some of the most common problems seen in the field by a technician, because they can maybe not always get a hold of me or somebody at Bathica or anybody. So maybe we can sometimes route them to watch a quick video on how to fix that problem. So it's always a work in progress. We're always adding more content. We've got service manuals there. We've got parts manuals. And sometimes those manuals are hard to find sometimes, to be frank. So we try to keep it all together for the customers to find.
And I suspect the reason for the contractor login segment is to keep what I call civilians, homeowners, away from information that they really should not have access to.
That's exactly right. I mean, that's exactly right. It's targeted for HVAC professionals. There are videos in there about troubleshooting low and high voltage circuits. We certainly don't want homeowners finding it on our website. So that's why we have it protected for our contractors only.
No question.
Because in the future, Jerry, we're also getting ready to launch. We have some financing available for consumers. And we also will have an extended warranty program coming out soon, labor and parts warranty available to the consumers. All things to make that contractor more competitive, more tools, let's say. So dealer toolbox, dealer portal, same thought.
No question. It's interesting you bring up financing, because you will now be the third guest on Bathica Banter that will speak to financing. Clearly, it has become a huge part of our industry. Has it not, TJ? I always say on the contractor level, because I spent 23 years as a contractor in New York and New Jersey. In today's world, if you're not offering financing to your customer, you're not growing, baby. You're not going anywhere. No. So it's so interesting that you guys are getting involved with that as well.
Well, just like everybody else, I mean, things break, unfortunately, at the worst possible times. I mean, in an HVAC system these days for a consumer is 5 digits. You're talking $10,000 up. Most people don't have that pocketed away, so they need financing. If a contractor's not offering financing, they're going to be losing a lot of opportunities. These financing companies make it so easy. The contractors have no liability. They're not responsible for payment. They're not responsible for anything.
Right. Back in my day, TJ, it was a big deal when I got involved with credit cards. Taking credit cards was the big deal back then, right? And that still exists, obviously, but the interest level on most credit cards is just prohibitive to put a large purchase like an HVAC system. So again, financing is again, you have to be involved or you're not growing. That's for sure.
Yep.
Hey, TJ, so when I look at your LinkedIn profile, and you know how active I am on LinkedIn, I'm always doing something on there. It's really the only social media I'm involved in. But when I look at your profile, your position is listed as HVAC Technical Support Specialist. And one of the reasons I wanted you as a guest today, I wanted you to speak to the challenges of that position, my friend. Frankly, I think your position and positions like it are possibly the most underrated and least appreciated position, but possibly the most strategically important position for any distributor and manufacture. And I'm not just blowing smoke up your skirt because you're my guest. I truly believe that you are in the trenches with your customers quite often. So where I'm going with this, TJ, could you share with our audience what a day in the life of TJ Johannes in that position is like?
Love to, Jerry. I'll try.
Yeah.
As you'd imagine, it's a lot of phone calls.
Yeah.
A lot of contractors calling, a lot of our profit center employees calling. Um, as you can imagine, my office is a little junky. I've got furnaces sitting in here. I've got mini splits hooked up. I've got thermostats. I've got wire. So I'm constantly working on stuff like that. I've constantly got a wiring diagram pulled up on my other screen or my iPad, or so it might go from a call about an air coat on a mini split to a quote on a 25-ton rooftop with all the bells and whistles, to a question about an ultra low NOx piece of equipment out in California,
right?
To designing a spec sheet or working with my marketing department to create everything that our profit centers need to sell our product.
Right. Yeah.
As you can imagine, it sometimes gets a little hectic, but that's okay. I mean, that's all right. That's the way it is. I thrive in it sometimes, and just got to prioritize and put out the fire, so to say.
I think you're being modest. I think it's hectic most of the time, quite frankly, because I see your counterpart in our company, Devon Embry and Dennis King and Abu Bakistani, how hectic their lives are on a day-to-day basis. And like, as you started with, the majority of that is phone calls from the field, just based upon the nature of your position, for sure.
It's funny how it goes from, moments of quiet and when you're kind of catching up on a couple odds and ends to just pure madness within a matter of 20 minutes. And since you brought those guys up, I want to say thank you to Devin and Abood and Dennis. I couldn't do what I do without those guys, and you too. You guys do a great job.
Oh, well, thank you for that. I wasn't setting you up for that, so thank you very much, TJ.
But working with our vendors is a huge part of what I do. Having that relationship and partnership with you guys and all of my vendors is key.
Yeah, well, there's no question. We love you. That's why you're a guest on our show today, for sure, TJ. You're the best, man.
You can't give me a hug through the screen. At least
I'll give you a virtual hug. Hey, brother. So let's be honest here. In most cases, when you're getting a call from your customer in the field, it's not to talk about, the Dolphins winning or losing that Sunday. It's it's a serious situation. They got a piece of equipment that's down. Mrs. Gillicuddy, their customer, is probably right over their shoulder. We know the scenario because we've lived it in previous lives. So my question to you is this: what do you need from your customer to help you help them? What information should they be prepared right out of the gate to give you to help you move forward and expedite the resolution to a problem?
Well, yeah, I mean, and I'm grateful because sometimes our customers are excited and they're angsty on the phone and upset, and I get it. They're usually calling me because it's the end of the line, so to say.
Yeah.
It goes without saying. Model and serial number. I think the technicians out there probably heard that enough at this point that they know that without the model and serial number, I really can't do much at all.
Right.
And if I happen to not pick up and you leave me a message or whatever, a brief description of what's going on is always good.
And don't just say it's broke.
Right. Right. As much info as you can give me. I mean, I want all the information. I preferably want you to be on site, sitting in front of that piece of equipment,
right,
and have the tools, a meter, manometer, and be ready to start troubleshooting and testing. But model, serial number, and what's going on, nature of the problem.
Exactly. Yeah. And TJ, may I ask, serial number? I think I know the answer to this. In fact, I'll guess. serial number just to verify that indeed the product was sold by Hajoka? Is that right?
Not necessarily.
Oh,
I mean,
okay.
at the end of the day, I want to get all these consumers taken care of. I mean, but this probably applies more to our unitary products, more so to our ductless side.
Gotcha.
For example, a furnace may have had a gas valve change,
Ah,
or something significant change at a
sure.
serial number date. That is really important to know. Whereas on
Yeah,
the ductless side, I think it's more about warranty verification, but more so on the unitary side.
gotcha. So if there had been a change of equipment, like you say, a gas valve, you can segment that by looking at the serial number. Beautiful. That makes a lot of sense. Yeah.
As you can
Hey,
imagine,
hey,
the
TJ. So
manufacturers change part numbers frequently.
yeah, for better or for worse, and more often it's
We
worse, I
know.
think. But yeah, because they make those changes, and they're not always. Let's. I'm trying to put this in a politically correct way. They're not always kind enough to share that with everybody outside of their own company.
Sometimes you find out on
The
the
hard way.
fly.
Yeah, absolutely. So TJ, look, in your position at Hajoka, for better or for worse, I think you see both the strengths and the weaknesses of our industry, especially with our frontline soldiers, and those are the guys and gals who are in the trenches, who are in the field working on pieces of equipment. And where I'm going with this is, as a trainer, you're a trainer as well. Where do you see the greatest need for education within the industry right now? Is it the use of instruments? Is it the use of new technology within instruments? Where do you see what's lacking? Where should we be concentrating as trainers? Where should we be concentrating more effort?
Jerry, sometimes still seems like airflow
Yeah.
seems to be a mystery
Yeah.
to a lot of technicians out there.
Yeah.
Maybe doesn't again apply so much on the ductless side, but on the unitary side, absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
We can't verify refrigerant charge if we haven't verified the airflow first. And a lot of issues in systems can be directly traced back to airflow. Now, I will say that problem seems to be mitigating because some of the new tools that are out there, some of these Bluetooth whole setups that Field Piece and UEI and some of the other manufacturers have, where they actually have probes to make it easier to check all that stuff.
Right. Yeah.
But obviously we're coming across new challenges and new training opportunities in the next several years too that are probably going to put a lot of everything else to bed for a little while. I think what we're going to be training on in the next few years is going to be probably refrigerant based.
Right. When you bring up airflow, I can't agree more. When I do classes on your platinum product, which is the unitary product, heat pump with inverter-based compressor, airflow is a class unto itself. I have to make some assumptions as a trainer, whether they be correct or not. I have to make some assumptions on an installation class that someone in that process has used a ductilator. If it's new construction, has properly sized the duct, and if it's existing construction, has chosen the piece of equipment based upon what the ductwork can provide, the existing ductwork. To be honest with you, TJ, who knows? In most cases, if that is being done, but you're right. And look, it's one of my own weaknesses. Like you, I came from the Northeast. I came out of the boiler business. And when we went into contracting, that was initially my thing. And then I got into ductless heating and cooling. So ducted was not my gig. So I could take a class on air movement myself. And I do think it is probably one of the greatest weaknesses. And again, I don't have the answer to it other than education, 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 right?
Well, consider it in hydronic terms. What's the universal formula? I'm not going to be able to come up with that off the top of my head, but your flow in a hydronic system is same theory, right? Just as important as airflow in a duct system.
Yeah. Yeah, no question about it. That's a good analogy, my brother, for sure. Yeah. Hey, TJ, so going back to that question, the root of that question, instrumentation, new technology. You even mentioned it in your answer about new instrumentation with probes that can sense all these different measurements that you need to help your customer. What are you seeing? What have you seen? What instrument, what product has been a game changer, you think, for the guys in the trenches, for the guys and gals out in the field?
I mean, I think it probably has to be the advent of the new Bluetooth technology.
Yeah.
Whether it's the new tools, like I said, the testing, the refrigerant digital manifold gauges, the airflow gauges. I mean, all that stuff is Bluetooth tying together. The contractor can set this stuff up from his phone, and that's what the new generation of contractors and technicians want. Our unitary manufacturer is launching Bluetooth equipment. I mean, so now we're to the point manufacturers, and I can only see it expanding, Jerry. I mean, the technology is pretty unbelievable when we're moving away from manual dip switches on some equipment, and you can set it up connected through an app. Yeah. And you diagnose it, you troubleshoot it through an app. And contractors ask me all the time, well, when can I just sit on my couch and not even go to somebody's house?
Yeah, right.
I totally think that's something we're going to see soon.
Yeah. Well, there are diagnostic equipment that is already out there.
Right.
Aftermarket accessory items that you can attach to most unitary systems that will do exactly what you just described. Will alert you and the homeowner when there's an issue, will alert the service tech what the problem is, so he or she's prepared when they get there. Blows my, as a 62-year-old guy, it blows my mind.
Yeah, it's pretty unbelievable. And just to think where it might go is it's pretty cool to me.
No question. Yeah. Sometimes I feel like that Geico commercial where I've become my father, and I have to break myself out of that mindset that this technology, AI is a part of our industry now. It's a part of our product that that. And it's a good thing. It's not a bad thing. What I always say about the onboard diagnostics, and I'm speaking specifically about the Mainline mini split and platinum product, of course, is that if nothing else, it's a time saver. As a service tech, you're never faced with a situation where you're potentially ohming out 5 different sensors to find the one in error. The onboard diagnostics will always take you exactly to the thermistor. That's the problem. And if nothing else, that's money, baby. That's a time saver. So this is all good stuff. And old guys like me just have to just get on board, get with it.
It's cool to think, though, and to kind of imagine. You got to think that the next big thing has yet to be seen yet, right?
Oh, no question.
Depending on where you get your information, the Earth uses, I don't know what, 30 or 40% of energy on cooling.
Yeah.
Regardless of whether we're using inverters or this or that, the demand on energy for cooling is, I just wish I could invent it, right? I mean, if we could all just think about what's going to replace the mechanical refrigeration system.
Yeah. Yeah. It can make your brain hurt a little bit, couldn't it?
But somebody's going to come up with it. I really got to think somebody's going to come up with it.
Yeah. Yeah. No doubt about it. Well, TJ, your background and mine is actually pretty similar. We're both originate from the Northeast. In fact, where we first met was a very early position for you, and that was a counterperson at Mount Kisco Supply in Mount Kisco, New York. Remember that, man?
Hard to believe, man. I
It's a long,
mean,
it's a long time ago. I'm not going to say how long, but it was a long time ago.
it's got to be 30 years ago. More than
Easy,
that.
easy,
More than
easy.
that. More
Yeah.
than that. I was just out of high school.
So look, the reason why I bring that up is I'm curious to know if there was one person, if there was one position, one job, one supervisor, one teacher maybe, who you look back in 2020 and say, well, that prepared me better than anything else that I've experienced in my HVAC career. Please share that with us if you would.
Sure. It's pretty simple. Maybe I'm not going to name names, but anybody who maybe watches this and knows me probably is going to know who I'm talking about. But it's somebody I worked for many years. And he was an old veteran of this business for almost 60 years. I mean, and I learned a ton from this guy. Everything I know really from this industry, I learned from him.
Nice.
And like I said, anybody who knows who I am and knows where I worked is going to know who that person is.
Okay.
So, but on the flip side of that, I couldn't, not mention my current leadership, Jeff and Rod. I've learned more about this business and as a whole, and just business and leadership and what it takes to be leaderships from these guys too. I can't go without mentioning them.
No question. And I know both those gentlemen, and I absolutely agree with you. Again, you and I, our backgrounds are quite similar. We come from a more technical than a business background. So what I learned from Jeff and what I learned from Rod, and of course from my direct boss, Guillaume Clee, is the business side of things. Just three wonderful examples of people we absorbed from in that regard.
It's a different side of it, like you said,
Yeah.
coming from the technical side and then seeing this side. It's interesting. But
Yeah,
I like
no
it.
question. And there's a lot to learn for sure.
Oh,
yeah. So TJ, look, I want to look at the bigger picture, if you will. And what I mean by that is I want to throw a couple of topics at you and get your perspective. I'm very interested in your perspective on a couple of hot topics, excuse the pun, in HVAC right now. And that is refrigerants, the new refrigerants coming down the pike, and also this movement away from fossil fuels into electrification, decarbonization. New words for us, right? These are new words in our vernacular. Electrification. Wow, where'd that come from? But so let's start with refrigerants, if you would. Where do you see that going? I know that's a loaded question, and there's nothing definitive that you can give us, but what are the changes, the initial changes that we're going to see in the short term? And if you can look into a crystal ball, where do you see the long term with refrigerants?
Well, the thing is, Jerry, is that the long term or short term is going to be here before we realize it, right? These new refrigerants are going to be here this year.
Yeah.
And maybe even very soon this year. I think all of a sudden some of these products are going to start rolling in.
Yeah.
Personally, I'm not overly concerned with it. I know there's probably some technicians out there that might be, but I'm personally not. So don't mind me. I've got to keep a couple of notes in front of me when we were talking about the refrigerant. That's all. But, everybody's worried about the flammability, right? I mean, and the truth is
an issue,
that, right, the new refrigerants are mildly flammable. They're considered A2L refrigerants.
And that's the key, mildly.
That's the key. There are no hydrocarbons in that refrigerant, which means it is not propane. There's no propane in it.
Right.
Okay. I have seen videos of people actually putting this refrigerant through a torch.
Yeah.
Couldn't get it to light.
Right.
Okay. Now, we all know that a lot of these new refrigerants are already in use.
Yes.
My truck outside has flammable refrigerant in it. My truck.
Mm.
I bet my refrigerator does at home. I bet yours does.
Yeah.
Okay. A lot of PTACs have been using this stuff for years. Okay.
Mm.
So I am not overly concerned with it. And the last class I talked to about flammable refrigerants, these technicians are dealing with much more flammable stuff than refrigerants.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Propane and natural gas.
Yeah, sure.
Okay. So are they going to need some new tools? Yeah, maybe. I mean, is there a little
And
learning
that is,
curve? Yeah,
that is the
maybe.
rub, TJ. I think with most of the service guys, like, oh no, another set of gauges. Well, it is.
Well, depending though, if they're using these digital gauges now, it's just like a software update for the new refrigerant.
Beautiful.
So,
Yeah, I'm still thinking analog, but you're absolutely right. Digital. There you go.
and there's some charging apps out there for your smartphone. They already have these new refrigerants to calculate your superheat and subcooling, stuff like that.
Yeah.
The tanks are going to look different. Okay.
Yeah, different color.
Different color. The threads are going to be different. It's reverse thread.
Yeah.
Something interesting to point out is that they have a relief valve. The new cylinders will have a relief valve.
Okay.
Not a rupture disc.
Interesting.
So in the unlikely event of a tank overheat in the van or whatever, overfilling it or something, only the relief valve will open and allow the tank to return to safe pressure. Whereas a rupture disc is going to what?
Dump the whole thing.
It's going to dump the whole charge.
Yeah.
So just another safety feature, just for safety.
No, that's brilliant. I didn't know that, TJ. You just informed me of something. That makes a whole lot of sense.
Yeah,
especially,
it's coming.
The whole thing that's driving the change of refrigerant is environmental protection. That's the root of it. So to have a relief valve that only relieves once and as you say, brings the tank back to the manageable or the within the rated pressure instead of dumping the entire charge or the entire tank. Beautiful. Makes perfect sense. That's what we're trying to work toward, is environmental friendliness, if that's a word. Yeah.
Right. So overly, it's going to be a learning curve. It's going to be new. Customers may all of a sudden not have the right fitting on their manifold or whatever. Little things like that are going to pop up. Or a customer might just, his or her first new install, and might have a question. Some manufacturers are going to have sensors on the indoor evaporator coil.
Yes.
So in the event of a leak, it'll sense the leak, shut down the system, but continue to keep the blower energized just to dissipate any fumes.
Yeah, I did hear that. I don't know if that's across the board a mandatory situation, but I did hear that is a lot of manufacturers are going that route.
Again, I think it's probably, and I'm not a lawyer, so I'm not going to say it on the record, but
yeah.
Again, the chance of an indoor coil leaking and any kind of event happening is nil.
Right.
So the sensor, I think, is there just for overall peace of mind.
Yeah, makes sense. Yeah, covers the legal issues.
Yeah. Yep.
For sure. Well, I think we can wrap up your thoughts and my thoughts as well on refrigerants. Is nothing to worry about. We went through this not that long ago with R410A. Everybody was complaining about new gauges and fittings and what have you. And we may go through that process again, but the bottom line is no big whoop. Let's move forward. My only hesitation with it, that's not really the word I'm looking for, but my concern, I guess, is that R32, R454B, these are not the end game. They are really just another stopgap. So this is a process that the industry will be faced with until maybe, as you said, somebody comes up with a whole nother process for refrigeration.
Things like propane and things like that are used right now in
ammonia.
Yep, for small systems like soda machines and things like that, and where it's only like an ounce of refrigerant or something like that.
Right.
So again, down the road, I guess it's possible that we might see these, but again, they're going to have to come up with a way to lower the capacity of the refrigerant. You know.
Yeah. Yeah. I always think of VRF systems. Think about the amount of refrigerant rather, in a VRF system. Something has to be addressed there, for sure. If the refrigerant becomes more flammable or toxic or whatever the situation may be.
Well, and not only that, when you get into a VRF system, you also have to think about the fact that if you have a refrigerant leak, that refrigerant can displace oxygen, and that could be more of an issue than the flammability.
No question.
Nobody really thinks about that.
Yeah. Well, I hope somebody is at some point, because that definitely does have to be.
They are. Our customers and the people in the field are smart. They're very smart.
No question. So let's jump to the other topic, and that is electrification versus fossil fuels. Again, I'm a little older than you, TJ, but we do come from the same part of the world where fossil fuels is it, baby, or it was it for many, many years. So what is your perception on this? How do you feel about this political and environmental movement to electrification?
Tough, right? I mean, I grew up on fuel oil. I mean,
yeah, me too.
Anywhere south of Virginia, nobody even knows what that is.
Yeah.
It's pretty unbelievable. It already seems like the government is already, both local and federal are kind of moving in that direction of getting away from fossil fuels and moving the heat pumps, because, they're putting out rebates and all this different stuff. It's really tough, Jerry. I don't know what the right answer is. Certain markets, one thing's going to be better. One's, if you asked me, in the Northeast, I would ideally have a heat pump with a gas furnace backup.
I love it.
Or a mini split. I mean, and especially in those northern climates, to have that gas furnace as a backup, that fossil fuel backup. I personally like having that peace of mind.
TJ, I'm with you. I spend a lot of time with your counterpart up in Canada, and what I am digging and learning from my Canadian friends is they call it dual fuel applications up there, where they take your platinum outdoor unit and they take your cased coil, put it atop an existing oil-fired or gas-fired furnace, and away they go. And they call it dual fuel. And think about it. They have the ability now to burn whatever's cheaper to burn at that moment. It's brilliant. It's hybrid, right? We talk about hybrid cars. Well, there's your hybrid HVAC system. And I think it's an incredible, a brilliant idea.
Yeah.
And I do see that coming south of the border, as our Canadian friends say.
It has been. We sell quite a bit of them. I've been selling them for years. It's a great way. I mean, we all know that if your temperatures are 50 to 60 degrees outside, you don't need to run the furnace. It's perfect to run that heat pump. But as we get down 20 below, maybe you want that furnace capability.
No question about it. And again, I always use the province in Canada of Alberta as the example. Much of their fossil fuels in Canada comes from Alberta, natural gas and oil. And what the Alberta people want to do and do again is that dual fuel situation, because fossil fuels are so inexpensive, or potentially can be inexpensive there. They want the ability to be able to use both types of fuels. And it just makes perfect sense. You said that, you said, geez, I don't know if there's any correct answer to this. I don't think there is. And you also mentioned, each region has its unique needs, and Alberta, very unique. But again, the Northeast in the United States, very unique, because fossil fuels have been so entrenched there. I think the hybrid is the way to go. Unfortunately, and now I'm going to get on a political side of this, and I don't mean to, but unfortunately, the political people tend to see things in black and white. It's all or nothing. And I don't think that is a practical approach. Just my take on it.
I'd agree. I definitely would agree. I think they're trying to eliminate most furnaces that are 90% below.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm good with that, but then allow 90% keep it continuing 90% furnaces because, and again, I don't want to get political either, but everybody talks about electrification. Well, where is that electricity coming from?
Yeah.
It's coming from a lot of fossil fuel burning power plants.
Right.
So
I always say that, TJ, and maybe it's me having a bit of a skeptical mindset, but with so many of these greener technologies and greener products, if you go back a few steps, there's a lot of fossil fuel that was burnt in order to produce it or to get it to you. So,
and again, just like the refrigeration system advancement technology, hopefully maybe haven't quite got there yet with some of these other technologies, and
yeah,
I don't know.
And there are new technologies, stuff that as you and I sit here and talk, we're not even aware of yet, that people are working on and are very, very close to making breakthroughs.
Right.
So, yeah,
right.
I think this may be all a moot point 5-10 years from now. Who knows? In my case, in my career, in my life, that'll be for someone else. But
it may not be, Jerry.
Maybe.
I keep thinking maybe it'll be my lifetime, but I don't think it's going to be. I think I don't know. Everybody says, what's his name? Elon Musk has something up his sleeve, some kind of new HVAC technology, but I don't know.
Yeah. Well, he's trying to get people up to the moon or the Mars or something. I don't know.
Actually, it's funny. I saw one last night. So I live in Orlando. I'm 50 miles from Canaveral, and I can still see the launches every time.
Oh, that's very cool.
Night. Yeah.
That's on my bucket list. I've never seen a launch, either it be of his SpaceX or NASA. I would love to witness that for sure.
They're almost every other week now.
Oh yeah, right. With supplying space. No question
cool.
about it.
Pretty cool.
Hey, TJ, look, we have come almost to the end of our time together. So when this all gets edited and posted, you'll see that I end every program with something that I call Jerry's Pick of the Month. And it's just me giving myself an opportunity to talk about a book or a documentary or a tool or anything. Sometimes it's many times it's completely unrelated to HVAC, but something I've been turned on to in the last 30 days that I've discovered and I want to share with our audience. And what I'm beginning to do now with our guests is to give you that same opportunity. Is there something that you've discovered recently, whatever it may be, that you would like to share with our audience, please?
Just a book that Rod shared with us a couple of years ago.
Can you get our attention?
Yeah, and really, Jerry, it's kind of made for people like you and I who are in front of people about presenting and how to keep their attention on you.
Who's the author? Who's the author, if you will?
Craig Can.
Okay. Great. Well, I'm going to get that book.
Yeah. Rod had him in a couple of years ago, and he talked to us a little bit. And I still pick it up once in a while when I'm going to go do a class. Just trying to make that personal connection with your audience, right? I mean, instead of just getting up there and spitting out facts and data and trying to get them to focus, their attention on you.
Right.
Which I know sometimes isn't always easy.
No, it's not. And again, very regional, is it not? The audience that we would have in Louisiana, very different than the audience you would have in California, and so on and so forth. Sometimes, like after every class, every training event I do, I call my wife, I call Patricia, and she always starts every conversation with, "How'd you do?" And either I say I killed or I didn't. And oftentimes when I feel I didn't, it has to do with the energy that was not
Oh
there
yeah.
from the, and I'm not blaming my performance or lack thereof on my audience, because I should be able to perform no matter what the situation. But I think you know exactly what I'm talking about. Much of our energy from presenters comes from our audience, comes from the people in front of us. The bigger than, that's why I would rather have 1,000 people in front of me than one. In fact, I'm very uncomfortable one-on-one. But you put 1,000 people in front of me, and that's when I'm having a good time, and I feel very comfortable. I know that's weird. They should probably study my mind, but
Well, we as trainers, I think too, we're our own worst critic. You
yes,
know, I mean,
yes,
over. Let's say you do 2 dozen classes, maybe only 3 or 4, and you're like, oh, I really killed it. Every other time, I'm like, yeah, I could have done better. Could have,
yeah.
but
Well, there was a time, TJ, where I used to, after training events, I would send out a survey. Had my boss at the time required it. I would have never done this on my own, because my psyche is way too fragile for that. But I can tell you, out of the thousands, and it sounds like I'm boasting now, but out of the thousands of positive reviews I got, I can tell you the name, the state, the city where that person that gave me the negative review came from. They stick with you, right?
oh,
It's
I
weird.
can too. Yeah, there's one I remember where I was like, damn, speak your mind, son.
Exactly.
But
Exactly.
on the other side of that, it sometimes forces you as a trainer to maybe take a bite of your own sandwich and
No
try to
question.
see what you can do better. I mean,
No
I'm
doubt.
not going to take offensive.
Yeah.
A good class, a good participants are ones that want to interact and not try to pretend that they're smarter or tell you that they're smarter. I mean, we
Right.
are all in this together. We really are. I mean,
I'm with you. No question. Well, TJ, my friend, we have come to the end of our interview, and I cannot thank you enough for your participation. I was so interested in getting your perspective on a number of the things we covered today, and I'm just can't wait now to get this in front of our YouTube audience. So, thank you, my friend. Happy New Year to you. I hope I see you in person real soon.
I hope so too, Jerry, and I thank you for everything. And we will most definitely talk to you soon.
Thanks, buddy.
See you, bud.
Such a great conversation with TJ Johannes of Hajoka. Can't thank TJ enough for his time. Hey, look, it is time for Jerry's pick of the month. And my pick of the month this go around will be something that TJ and I spoke of, and that is education on the new A2L refrigerants. Let's take the mystery out of it, people, and let's get educated properly. My friends at ESCO, they have an online training course for as little as $39.95. It takes you all of about 4 hours to do, and you will learn everything you need to know about these A2L refrigerants. It'll take all the mystery out of it, and everyone will feel comfortable moving forward. So, education is power, and that's my pick of the month. The ESCO training for A2L refrigerant. The specific course is called Low GWP Refrigerant Safety, Flammable and Mildly Flammable A2L Refrigerants. So please check that out online. Again, ESCO, ESCO, the ESCO group, and great people, great training, really affordable, could get it done in 4 hours. Okay, everybody, see you next month.